Hello. I've been creating Blockbench models for quite a while now, and I've never put out a tutorial on how to use them, and I'm learning new things every single day, so I thought I would show people how I go about making models. I want to show people how to use the wizard plugins, so if you go down here to plugins, go up here to the search bar, simply type in wizard and you will find these official Minecraft plugins, one for entity, one for item, and one for block. Mine are already installed, but if you simply click the button on the side, you can install them. So to start with, you're just going to click on the plugin and click Let's Go, and it will bring you to this page where you can choose an array of things that will be a part of your mob. First, you'll have to give it a name, and for this video, I want to do something like a bouncy ball. You can tell as I'm typing out the name, it's coming up at the bottom. That is our identifier, which will be for our in-game. Here at the side where it says my name, you can put whatever you would like the beginning of your identifier to be. Mine is Resize because that's what I name all of my packs. Up here you can also choose between different Bedrock previews and Education Edition. On the appearance section you'll be greeted with a load of vanilla mobs, and there are some weird ones in it, from guardians to phantoms and all sorts of different things, including the sniffler. In this section you'll have a wide variety of options for what your mob will look like to begin with when you start off modelling. This can be really helpful if you want to create a mob which has got two different elements of it, say if you wanted something to fly that doesn't usually, or if you wanted to tame something which isn't usually tameable. For instance, if we wanted a creeper and we wanted it to have the behaviour of something like a snow golem, then we could have a creeper that fires snowballs and attacks mobs. For this video, however, I'm going to go with the slime, because I love the slime. It was the first mob that I messed around with, and is one that I would recommend to people to start off with. For the behaviour of my mob, I'm going to keep it the same, because I don't want it to be any different. After you choose your behaviour and appearance, you will be brought to the loot table, where you can add specific items. For my slime, it is going to be very much the default, but just as an example, if I go here, I can choose an item. If I type in something like door, it will come up with a trapdoor. If I put the trapdoor in, I can then choose how many of this item will drop. There is also the option to add an item, and in adding the item you can change the probability, meaning that sometimes it may drop one item, however others it could drop another. This is very useful if you create a mob which is a mixture of two things. Because, for instance, in my adventure map I have a mob which is part redstone, part slime, so 50% of the time it drops redstone and 50% it drops slime. I'm going to get rid of these and simply just add a slime ball. I just had the idea, I want to add a slime block, because that could be quite interesting, and seeing as I don't know how this is going to look until the end of the video, I would like this to be unique. I'm going to make this so that it can drop up to one slime block and up to 2 slime balls. Our final section before we finally start working on the model of the mob is the spawn egg. Now here you can create it a basic spawn egg like the original vanilla ones before they got changed recently, or you can do a custom texture, and this is what I like to do. So for now I'm going to give this a random texture that's on my PC, and then later I'm going to use Blockbench to actually create a specific spawn egg texture. This is the last and probably one of the most important parts of this is how you're exporting your mob. You can either do it to its own folder, into another folder or pack. You can export it as an MC add-on so that your friends can play and use it, or you can integrate it into an MC add-on. Basically, the two on the left are used as our base, and the other two are to integrate into those. So for this, I'm going to have it as my tutorial video, so I'm going to export it as a folder, and then if I add anything else to it, I'm going to be using the integrate into pack. So I'm going to call this tutorial video, and I'm going to name it Resize as the author, that's what I always do. As for the image at the bottom, this will generate an image using the Minecraft bee texture, but I'll find one on my PC and use that. I found this nice chicken one, and I think it's silly, I like it. Now that we're actually in Blockbench, ready to work on this mob, the first thing I'm going to show you is how to actually move the camera, because it's something that a lot of people struggle with when they first begin if they're not on some sort of phone or iPad. So on PC you're simply just going to hold down right click and tilt left or right, and this will move the camera centered around the model. Once you get comfortable with how the basic movement is, you will want to go over to the sidebar where you will see cube. This is your folder, which basically is your entire mob. In here you'll find items like arms, eyes, anything to do with your mob. If you make it have horns, it'll have horns. Here we've got 2 cubes, which are, as you can see, there's one in the center and one on the outer rim, because slimes have a slime core and they have their sort of gelatin outside. There's also the eyes and the mouth as well. Starting off with the simple tools, in the top left you'll see the move tool. Using this you'll use these coloured arrows to move your object either up, down, left or right. Depending on your north face, which is this little thing at the bottom, you will have your blue which moves back and forth, you will have your green which moves up and down, and you will have your red, which moves left and right. The next thing I want to talk about is the rotation tool, which is this little thing here. With this, you'll basically be moving your block or your entity around a pivot. And the pivot is another very important part, as if your pivot's wrong, parts may move in the complete wrong space, or they may look all jumbled together. The pivot basically acts as the joint for everything. So as you can see here, if I go to my rotate, if I do it while my pivot is at the bottom, this block is now just spinning in the air. This isn't exactly what I want, so I'm going to go to my pivot and I'm going to try and move it into the center of the block, so that when I go back to rotate, I'll be able to rotate it in the way that which I want. After I'm clear that my pivot is in the right position, I'm going to go back to my rotate, and now as you can see, if I go to rotate my block, it is now moving from the center and looks a lot cleaner. Rotating this block around randomly, I can show you that it's basically the same as the move tool, where you have your red, green and blue, but this time they act as sort of the axis. Now, I don't want any of this, so I'm going to go to undo. You can also use Ctrl-Z and Ctrl-Y, and if I click this, it's going to get rid of it, and then I'm just going to keep using Ctrl-Z for the rest of the video, because that's what I'm used to. Now my block is back to its original stance, I can show you other things, like the Resize Tool. Now this tool will be your main sculptor for your blocks. Basically, by pulling these little notches up or down or left or right or backwards and forwards, you can give your block depth. Now, you may think that something is broken because there is this void space here, but this is purely because there is no texture allocated to that space at the moment. Once we get onto texturing, when we go to the paint section, everything will look exactly the way you want. This isn't your block glitching or anything like that, it's literally, it doesn't have a texture. So I'm going to try and make this the same size as the other one, as we can see. There is a lot of random blank space, but that is completely fine. Now that I'm done showing this, I'm going to get rid of the other cube, as well as the eyes and the mouth, because these are not going to be needed for what I want to show you today. Now that I've gotten rid of all the unnecessary elements, I'm going to move my little block into the center so that I can work on it. Using all those basic tools I just showed you, I'm going to push and pull my block until I get it into a little cube. Now, because I want more than a simple little cube, I'm going to go onto my block, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to go to duplicate. Doing this, I can create a copy of my cube or a duplicate, and this is the main way that I like to model things. Now I've got my cube 2, we'll call it, I'm going to go to my Resize tool and I'm going to flatten this one into a slightly smaller shape. So because I want this to look like more of a ball than a cube, as you can see I've got this filler space because this doesn't exactly line up now that it's smaller. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this top right, I'm going to go to the position, and I'm going to do 0.5 onto the red, blue and green. And you can see when I do that, it moves my thing slightly to the right, slightly to the left, slightly backwards. And this is basically putting it offset. So I'm going to do the same with the green that I've done with the red. I'm going to put 0.5, and then you'll see it's moved upwards. Now this is a little trick which is not very good, but I'm also going to do it with the blue one, so that my block is now technically inside of my other one. This gives it this nice sort of flatness to it, and it doesn't make it look as bulky. Now because I want this to look like a ball, I'm going to copy this and move it to all the other sides. But getting it on top, I don't want to have to recreate it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the pivot of this part, which I have duplicated. I'm going to put it in the center of my cube, of the entire model. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my rotation tool, I'm going to duplicate this little block, and then I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees so that it now fits at the top. It's a very cheaty way of doing it, but it's a way of saving time and not having to recreate things constantly. As you can see, I'm doing it with the sides as well. This is just a way of saving time. Another tool which is going to be very useful when wanting to sculpt is going to be a tool called Flip. This is basically going to flip the sides of my model. As you saw then, that top part, it changed, it went from left to right. If I use my paint tool and do a little splotch somewhere, just so it makes it more obvious, if I go up to my transform tool, which is up here, go to flip X, it will do this on the opposite side of the red arrow. So whichever side it is pointing, that will be the side that it flips on. I can do the same with the blue. However, I forgot that the flip is actually the upside down for the blue on this one, so the texture just fit. But it's simply at the bottom. But I can always get rid of that if I just Ctrl-Z. After learning all of these skills now, I'm going to very quickly duplicate this. I'm going to resize it down into a smaller cube like we have done previously. And then I'm going to move the said smaller cube to the face of this And because that other one in the middle is offset, it now has this sleek little look to it. I'm going to now do this on all sides, and then we're going to figure out what to do next. Just while I'm doing this, I would like to say, in case you haven't seen my channel before, my name is Resize Tool, and I create a load of Blockbench mobs, and I like to create fun, weird videos showing those mobs off. If you're interested, go ahead and check them out, and please subscribe if you like the video. Now, I reckon this little ball thing needs some eyes, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, I'm going to go to Add Group, and this will create me another folder. I'm going to go to Rename, and I'm going to call this Eyes. So in this folder now, it is going to be a completely separate pivot to the first one. So if I add cube, I now have this cube at the bottom, and if I just move it somewhere so that I can actually see it, I now have a little eyeball down here. And so this cube will move completely void of the other one until I eventually merge the folders. So I can move this left and right, and looking at this, it is way too big. At the moment this is a 2x2 cube, but even if I make it a 1x1, it's way too big. Because of this, I'm going to show you one of my favorite tools, which is called Scale. So if you right click on this texture over here, go to Per Face UAV, this changes the size of the UAV. So if I want to scale it up or down, it will not mess with the texture at all. If we go up to the top left and go Transform again, go to Scale, if we click on this bar and slide it across, it is now changing the size of my cube. So I'm going to change it by 0.5, and if we go back down here, look at this, it looks the exact same except it's itty bitty. So now I'm going to find a place for this and see if I can make this look nice. It's kind of hard to give a ball eyes, but we're going to try. Now I've decided on my positioning, I'm going to go and copy this. So I'm going to right click again, click duplicate, and this I'm going to show you the flip tool. I'm going to flip on the X, and it will go bloop, and now it's on the left. Now that I've got my eyes, I'm going to take the eyes folder and I'm going to drop it into the cube folder so that the cube is now the driving force. This means that if I move the cube or rotate it at all, the pivot of the cube will decide where the eyes go. This means that no parts are left behind and means that there will be no problems when things are moving. Now that I've got my model, I'm going to go to this down here, which is my texture, and because this is the basic slime one, I'm going to right click and delete this, and then I'm going to create my own texture using this. And I'm going to select 16x16 and see how it looks. If I don't like it, I'm going to change it. Now that I've added my texture, I can see that these cubes are way too big, so I'm going to delete this and create a new one. Usually I'd create 32x32, but for this I'm going to get 64 because it will give me a lot more cubes and a lot more space. As you can see now, I've got loads of room for me to add details and texture. Now that we're on the paint section where we can finally texture it, I'm going to go to this top left where I have a bunch of different brush options. I'm going to use the simple paintbrush, and we are going to create this sort of a green slimy texture. Using this big color swatch at the side, I can choose any color that I want and simply just start drawing with it. Now say you put stuff in the wrong place, you can go to this eraser tool at the top and simply just get rid of those pixels. This may look odd at first because you can see behind your block, but this isn't a problem, you can just fill that in later. Next you can use the paint bucket to completely fill areas. I use this quite often, as you'll see in a second. I will just fill an entire area and then I will start working on it. There is also the color picker tool where you can go to, let's say, that blue at the top right. Seeing as I like that color, I'm going to choose that color and now it creates it over here for me. So if I go to my paintbrush, I can use this and now I can spread that color anywhere I want. There's also really good tools for things like gradienting. Using this tool, you can basically choose a color and it will pull that color down or left or right, however you want it, and add this really nice sort of cloudy effect. Looking to the top right, you can see there's a little arrow that points down. If you click on this, you can see a couple more options in tick boxes. There are things like mirror painting and the painting grid. So mirror painting will make anything that you do on the left side appear on the right and vice versa. Whereas the painting grid, you can get rid of it and it makes your models look smoother in Blockbench, but I don't really see the point of it because it's kind of makes it more difficult to paint. But this won't at all affect anything in the actual world. I'm going to use all these little tools that I've showed you, specifically this massive paint bucket, to cover this thing in green. And once I am finished with this and I've got my base color down, I'm going to go in and do some little eyes using a slightly lighter color. Now, if anyone knows me or if they've seen posts that I've put up on social media, they'll know that I quite like frogs. And I feel like when I was creating this, the frogs were in the back of my brain chanting something, because the eyes of this very much look like a frog. I decided to lean into this and I gave this mob a really nice sort of green bottom to it. but something didn't look right, and I figured out that it was this weird block at the front. So I deleted it and realized that it looked quite better, and seeing as that one made it look better, I thought if I get rid of the ones at the side, this would also make it look tons better. And you know what? I was right. This looks so much better, just like this. Now, because I removed those, it's technically going to have an empty space on my actual texture on the left, but this won't cause a problem at all while I'm texturing. This will just mean that there is empty texture and nothing to actually go on it. Now, there are some other tools which you can use if you're someone who likes detail. There are these shape tools where you can use a full circle, a full square, or a outer rim of a circle and the outer rim of a square. These are centered on one block though. I think that the square isn't, and just looking at this, no, it's not, which is fine. So you can center your squares on uneven numbers, whereas if you want to use the circle, you will have to do it on an odd number. Experimenting now with the gradient tool, I thought I'm going to add this really nice white gradient going down my mob so that it will give this sort of shadowy effect on it, or at least this sort of light. Seeing as I want this gradient to look good and not random, I am going to take white pixels and fill in these little bits so that it will look more like it fits on the actual top of my bouncy ball. To make it fit better, I'm going to add a slightly lighter green to my actual head of the bouncy ball. And I think I'm going to dub this thing the frog ball because it looks like a frog. It looks like the old bouncy balls you get when you're a kid, and I love that. Now that this is looking good, we can come out of paint, and once we do that, we can really see this thing has a lot of beautiful texture to it despite being purely pixels. And now the mob is pretty much complete and ready to be put into the Minecraft world. Now, to finish this off, you're going to have to go down to your texture, click Save As, navigate to your folder which you've created. Mine will be obviously tutorial video, and you will want to go to Textures, go to Entity, because this is our entity mob, and then go to the texture, and it will warn you that you will be replacing it, but that's completely fine. Click on it, replace it, and then save. Exact same thing now for your actual model itself and the project. First, you'll want to save your project, which will save into the same file that your last one did, and then you'll want to go to Save Model, and do the exact same thing again. One last thing that I want to note on, which you will not have to do, but I'm definitely going to do, is my model looks way too small. If you look at it compared to the cube at the bottom, it is tiny. So I'm going to select my entire model, meaning that everything is being shown. I'm going to go to UV mode and I'm going to change it to per face. This means that now everything is individual to itself, and just like I did earlier with the eyes, I'm going to go up to my scale and I'm going to basically just make this thing bigger because it looks way too small. Before we actually throw this thing into the world, I'm going to show you how to create the spawn egg texture. Using Blockbench, go to Image and do Create Image, and you will basically want a 16 by 16. You could change this however you want, but I like using the basic mob spawn eggs. So go to 16 by 16, name it whatever you want. We're going to be changing it later. I've named it Bouncy Ball Spawn Egg. Confirm, and then as you will see here, this is what the basic spawn eggs look like before they changed them a couple of updates ago. To save yourself having to remake the texture every single time, I recommend creating a template, which is basically what you're seeing on screen now, and then just having that folder to the side so that you can copy and paste it, ready to be turned into your actual spawn egg. There's not a lot I can say during this part because everyone will create their own unique spawn eggs. You don't even have to create a spawn egg, just create a texture of whatever you want your mob's summoning thing to look like. Nevertheless, once you're finished designing your item of some sorts, you'll want to go to Save Model and then go to Textures again, but this time go to Items and then you will see your spawn egg. It will come up with the same message of doom saying, oh no, do not replace this, but it doesn't matter, just click yes and then move on. After listening to me for 18 minutes, you're finally ready to go into your world. Go to Behavior Packs, go to Available, find your folder which you created, mine is obviously tutorial video, activate it, go to Resource Packs, just check that the Resource Pack folder is loaded, and then you're pretty much ready to go. Now you're actually in your world, go into Creative, search up the mob that you created, mine's my bouncy ball, and then simply spawn it. And looking at this dude, he's bouncy, he's weird, it's worked. I hope that people have enjoyed this, and I hope that this tutorial has helped you. This weird frog ball is adorably silly, and I think it certainly fits with my channel that this was the kind of thing that I created for a tutorial. Now that this video is pretty much over, it's up to you. Go create weird mobs. Obviously, in this video, I haven't shown off everything that you can do in Blockbench, and I've only showed off things for singular entities, like a bouncing ball. So if you want to see something like something with arms or legs that moves, I'll do another tutorial video. But first thing, you gotta check out all the other videos that I've done. Please go look, because I have created so many mobs over the years. I did not mean to break that. I hope everyone enjoyed, and I'll see everyone next time. Bye!